Thanks, y'all, for coming to my talk. It's a journey from Alert1 to P1, cat pick graffiti, and phishing payloads. What can you expect from this talk? We're going to talk about cross-site scripting POCs, that's XSS, and we're going to talk about proving the concept of cross-site scripting, not just reporting on that Alert1, not just relying on that. In the title, I say P1. Y'all know what that means? Is that general knowledge? P1 meaning like a critical, right, in bug bounty? Excuse me? Yeah.
Priority one.
Yeah, priority one. That's right. So this talk is geared toward pen testers and blue teamers, detection engineers, threat hunters. It assumes a basic knowledge of cross-site scripting and content security policy. I got a challenge for you. If you got your laptop out, try to follow along when I do my live demo. We're going to be cloning a live page manually from scratch. I'm going to walk you through how to do that. We're also going to turn that into a vector and fish with XSS. Also, for you blue teamers out there, as we develop this, try to find along the way, every step along the way of our development is an opportunity to detect this kind of attack. So keep that in the back of your minds. What kind of detections might there be? We're going to go over that at the end because I think that's maybe the coolest part of this presentation. Quick disclaimer, I am an individual. I'm up here alone and I'm an individual. My thoughts do not represent those of my employer. I've got some legal stuff in there. But let's move on. So this is the agenda. We're going to get an intro. I'll give a demo. I'll show you what we're going to see. We'll talk about the fish. We'll sharpen the payload, and then present the final one. I'm Cary Hooper, and I go by Hoop, and I'm a hacker. I like web apps. I love pen testing web apps, but I've been full stack. If you want to talk to me about hacking afterward, I'd love that. I'd love talking to people around here. I was in the Army. There's some pictures of me in the Army. There's pictures of me doing a Diwali dance. And I won't get too far into my credentials, but I'd challenge you to hear what I have to say today and then decide if it's worth knowing and understanding. So let's talk about XSS. The state of XSS is pretty bad. I've seen dozens and hundreds of reports where pen testers put alert in the payload. They XSS payload, they find it, they're like, yeah, I got a reflected cross-site scripting, they rate it P2 or whatever CVSS core, and their POC is just an alert box. That doesn't demonstrate anything. Honestly, I talked to developers, and developers, I'm reporting out. One time when I was a junior, I reported this cross-site scripting vulnerability. I think it was even like document.cookie. I showed that in an alert box, and the dev looked at me and he says, why is this bad? Why? What? I see alert of boxes in my applications all the time. Why is this bad? And it took me a step back. It's like, oh, developers might not understand why this is bad. We really need to prove the concept. And across the industry in pen tests, I've seen we're not doing it really well. With the one exception that is bug bounty. Anybody participate in bug bounty here? Okay, a couple. So bug bounty is an amazing community where they actually prove these bugs, right? You find a cross-site scripting, you're not going to just report that. You turn that into something that's actionable and you turn that into a critical. I love that, and I hope that catches on in our industry. What we're seeing in the security landscape is apps are getting more secure. There's more reliance on frameworks. The security models are getting stronger. The browsers are getting stronger. So we have to do better. There's less and less active content in browsers. Like before, what we had ActiveX and Internet Explorer. Now Edge is based on Chromium, right? There's no longer these like Java client-side plugins. There's some, right? But it's not really widespread. So we need to do more with HTML5. HTML5 is baked into any major browser. Why else? Why else are we doing this? To maximize fun. We're doing a pen test day in and day out as a pen tester and like reporting the same findings, reporting the Alert1, screenshots of burp and headers. Like it can get rote, it can get boring, you can get burned out. So let's have fun every once in a while, and this is going to be an opportunity to have some fun. How do we have fun? Cats, right? We take care of ourselves with cat payloads. We take care of ourselves with doing cool stuff within the JavaScript environment, within these payloads, and also my challenge to y'all, and the challenge constantly to myself, is to be the best professional I can be, cybering good and doing other stuff good too. Like professionals have a shared code of ethics. They have a shared body of knowledge. There's generally public trust, and especially us in the security community. There has to be some trust, right? So constantly working on being the best professionals we can be helps us all in the industry as well. Alert1 payloads are terrible, and I see it all the time. They don't effectively, oh, thank you, BB. They don't communicate the risk, right? In your pen test report, this is the one product that you have that shows, one, how good of a job you did. This is the product you're giving. It's going to be read by executives. It's going to be read by developers. Don't be lazy. Alert document.cookie isn't really great either. I see cookies more and more. They're being protected by the HTTP only flag, right? They're being issued where they can't be accessed with JavaScript. Again, it doesn't really demonstrate the effectiveness and how cross-site scripting breaks that browser security model. So we're going to explore what a JavaScript payload can actually do. So let's get a raise of hands. I want this to be interactive. Go ahead and shout it out. Like, what can you do with XSS besides just pop an alert box? You want to start us off?
Redraw the login page.
Yeah, redraw the login page. You can manipulate the DOM. You could steal session cookies. That's right. That's becoming harder and harder to do, but there's different ways to do that. Who else? Yeah, you're thinking like I'm thinking. We're going to get into that in a little bit, and I'll talk about some ways that I bypassed CSP in that attack. He said, hey, create a form field and steal someone's username and password. Who else? Beef. That's right. There's browser exploitation frameworks out there. So let's see, what else? What didn't we cover? Oh, vuln stacking. This is one of my favorites. Like, find other vulns within the web app, chain it together. Whether it's not really a cross-site request forgery, but you can forge requests with JavaScript, right? Anything that user can do in that web application, you can now force them to do in that context. CORS, if there's CORS vulnerabilities elsewhere, not even on that web app, maybe on like an internal wiki or something, you can make that request with JavaScript to that remote resource, bring that data back, and exfil it to your own server. Suddenly, the data that is inside the network is now yours and outside the network. There's also DNS rebinding. Who's heard of that? Who's heard of DNS rebinding? A couple. Good, good. I'm not going to get into that. It's a super cool technique. Highly recommend if you haven't heard of it. It's essentially utilizing a rogue DNS server. You can utilize somebody's browser as a proxy into their network. Super cool stuff. Again, not going to get into that. There's also JS Doom. Did you know you can play Doom in JavaScript? Don't inject an Alert1. Inject Doom into their enterprise website, right? If some developer sees you playing Doom on their domain, they're like, oh, that's probably a bad thing. That's not supposed to happen. So I'm going to talk about some tricks that I found useful, some JavaScript primitives, and I was thinking about this and trying to make XSS worse. Like, what's the ultimate goal? It's network access. It's a shell, right? Like, what are we trying to, how can you really drive this home and drive this into the ground? What do we want eventually is to get into their network, be an XSS primitive. So let's get some shells with this. Why cats? That's a question I get actually before this presentation. Why cats? Well, what's the internet made for? Cats, right? Cats are fun. Everyone loves cats. Cats are another way to demonstrate impact. I challenge you. Don't just pop an alert box. Inject a cat into the web page. These developers, they're super serious developers and they're super serious enterprise grade websites that are running all the JVMs in Java. Like, if you inject a cat into their super serious page, like, one, it disarms them during the report out call. You're actually communicating that you're not necessarily calling their baby ugly. You're just saying, I can put cute cats in there. And then two, it really drives back the impact because they say that's not supposed to be there. There's definitely something wrong that I need to fix. And then why shells? Because you can't argue with the root shell, the late great Felix FX Lindner. I love that quote and I love to live by it. So we're going to do some demos. We're going to talk about, I told you we're going to craft an HTML phishing page from scratch. We're going to talk about why HTML injection many times is more preferable than JavaScript injection, and you can improve, you can get the same outcome. So I'm going to show you what we're going to show you at the end. Let's go ahead and stop sharing, and I'll go ahead and pull up a browser on the shared screen. All right, so if you've never seen a cross-site scripting vulnerability before, I'm going to go quick. This is a project that I made on my own. It's just a vulnerable demo server written in Python, CharyPy. This is fishme.piedpiper.com. That just points to localhost. We're not attacking anyone in this presentation. We're just demonstrating these common industry techniques. In the page at the bottom, who sees the error? What would you try to do if you're a pen tester? Yeah, you'd submit a parameter called hoop, because it says, hey, hoop's not defined. So what happens if we put hoop? Let's go Wild West Hackin Fest. And what do we see? Wild West Hackin Fest is injected into the page. We found a reflected parameter. Let's try to see what else we can do. Let's do a script tag. Oh, we got a pop, right? So many pen testers would stop right there, document and move on. What else can we do with this? There's injecting of cats. I promise that. What is it? HTTP.cat. Let's see if this works. Oh yeah, we got a cat in the page. Perfect. With error code 402. And then something cool that I just wanted to demonstrate here, because this is actually using AngularJS. It's possible to do a cross-site scripting attack with the AngularJS prototype frame, with the prototype. So let me see if I can demonstrate that. This is a bypass of the AngularJS sandbox, which was, I think, discovered and rediscovered by Mario Heidrich from Cure 53. Let's see if that works. Oh, it worked. There's one before, one after, and there we go. So that's without even injecting a script tag. That can bypass. Why I'm demonstrating that is because that can bypass a lot of filters for XSS, including the PHPs. I forget the function off the top of my head, but there's a couple that sanitize those dangerous characters. This will bypass that. So why is this important? Let's go ahead and see what we're going to do at the end. I'll go ahead and paste this payload in. Let's open up my notes. So what else can we do here? We can manipulate the entire DOM, and we can steal somebody's credentials, ultimately resulting in network access. So if we put that payload in here, in the get parameter, boom, we got a login page, right? We got a location, we got a user ID, we got a password. Anybody want to give me a password? No, that's. And I was gonna demo that one later. You stole it from me. Thanks, Frank. All right, we click sign in, and oops, we're not going to the original site. Where are we going? We're going to my website of hooperlabs.xyz, and I just add a parameter in here so that we can see what we're doing. And boom, we got the payload here. That'll work in a GET request and a POST request. It's pretty trivial to do either way. I know that's somebody's password in this room right now, and they're gonna have to change their password, right? All right, so let's go back. That's the quick XSS demo. Let's go on and share again. So I want to take a break in the middle of my presentation to say, hey, I work for Bank of America, and we're hiring right now. I got to give a plug to my team. We're hiring all pen testers, intermediate pen testers, senior pen testers, web app, full stack. If you know somebody, come say hi after. You can scan the QR codes if you want. They'll be available at the end. Something that I've recently gained a different perspective in our organization. We have, I think, 60 or 70 hackers, and I've learned a world-class organization of offensive security professionals all over the world. We have a wonderful culture of learning and sharing and constantly trying to be the best selves we can be, and we'd love to have you. So that's our plug. These QR codes will be available at the end. We also have a really cool mission of securing the money, securing the data, securing the users, of which there are tons. We got over 200K employees and a ton of web apps, a ton of systems to pen test. All right, let's move on. So this is what the full attack chain might look like here, and I demonstrated at least 3 of these. One, we start off with the XSS vector, right? We have a vulnerability in a company domain site, whatever your target is for that day. The cool thing about the XSS is that it reflected cross-site scripting. It executes within the context of that domain. If you notice in the demo, it executed in the context of fishme.piedpiper.com. So we'll get into that in a little bit. There's also DOM manipulation. BB had mentioned that. Hey, we can totally rewrite the page however we want. We can inject HTML. We can use JavaScript to rewrite that DOM. Who knows what DOM is? Anybody? Anybody want to shout it out? Document object model. That's right. It's like a tree-like structure that the browser uses to store all of these tags. Computers, they like walking trees. You can iterate over trees. And what we can do with JavaScript is interact with that DOM. And we can change things, put things in, take things out, whatever we want. We pair that with a credential harvester. You saw that on my webpage. I wrote mine in PHP. You can write yours in anything. It takes in an HTTP request and then parses that request for certain fields like user, password, one-time password. What's the greatest thing about like presenting a page to the user is that if we need an MFA code to access a network or access an SSL VPN or access any kind of VPN, we just need to ask the user for these things. The user's going to get that email. They're going to click on the link, right? Because it says it's on their company domain. They look at the page, and the best part about this is they're going to trust it. Why? Because they're going to look in the address bar. They're going to see the green lock, and they're going to see it's a subdomain of their company site, right? This is a valid domain. It's redirecting them, or so it seems, to their SSO page or something that seems trusted, something that they do every single day. Ask them for their username, ask them for their password, ask them for the MFA code. There's a lot of stuff. There's more complicated payloads you can do on the back end. You can extend this to like upload client certificates for VPNs. You could extend this to the company's specific MFA platform, whether it's Okta, Duo, custom in-house app, right? Ask for the MFA code and then relay that. And then finally, like some sort of automation script. This is what gives us the shell, and this is what makes this technique really cool. It takes some dev, but what we can do is utilize Python or any programming language of your choice and automate a login. Say there's a web-based portal that has virtual resources or some sort of like SSL VPN. One thing that I love about Python and like specifically requests and Beautiful Soup is because everything is an API if you try hard enough, right? Everything has an API if you try hard enough. You can do anything you can do in a browser with Python. Yeah, one of my colleagues says, yeah, everything has an API if you can try hard enough. And yeah, Twitter is one example. Like I think they were making you pay for the API. One of my personal projects I got on GitHub, I just made a Twitter bot. Go through the front door instead, right? And there's no way, there's ways of distinguishing that. However, like that's not going to get blocked, right? So yeah, you check out my GitHub if you want to see that project. That's beyond the scope of this talk. So this is an INFRA diagram of what this attack might look like. The XSS link gets sent to the victim. The victim goes to get the SSO page, and then it's hosted on that XSS vulnerable domain, in this case, piper.com, which is a totally made up domain, by the way. Don't try going there. And then they send the creds to an attacker server. Attacker takes that, relays that to whatever network access solution they have on the back end, and boom, they're in your network. You got a shell. That's the concept here. Nothing super groundbreaking. There are other ways to clone websites. Who's heard of Social Engineer Toolkit? Relic, that's right. You're Frank, right? Yeah, Frank was just talking about Dave Kennedy and AKA Relic. He made the Social Engineer Toolkit, and I'm going to demo that real quick just to show you that, hey, there's easy ways to do this. You can use wget recursively. You can use httrack, and you can use Social Engineer Toolkit to do some of these things, but it does have its limitations. There's the meme. So we go sudo sctoolkit. And we put in my password because we're sudo. There we go. So we got the framework opened up. I'm going to get the first URL. The first URL we're going to do is live.com and just see what it looks like in a browser. Let's make this a little smaller so we can see the browser at the same time. Come on. Make this a little smaller. That's all we need. Cool, so we go to login.live.com, we immediately get redirected to this page. It looks beautiful. There's a lot of JavaScript stuff going on. If we want to clone that, we'll go to social engineering attacks 1, website attack vectors 2, 3, credential harvester attacks. By the way, this is an old tool, but it still works. 2, we'll go site cloner, and then we'll put in the URL right there. So it goes and it runs a localhost service. However, we go to localhost and we see what is actually broadcast. We get a blank page. We could troubleshoot this. We can go into it. There are limitations to this tool. Let's see another one. Say we want to find, I like hardware stores, by the way. I really like Ace. We have one near home. So say we want to see what it looks like in like aceservices.com. This is a really cool login form. Let's go ahead and submit this to Social Engineering Toolkit and see if we can clone this one. There we go. Let's open it up on localhost, and it looks different. It's not a blank page. What's going on here? Yell it out. Yeah, he says ADFS page. I don't know what that means, but it's probably correct. So it just looks different, right? There's not that same styling. It's not the same look and feel. This isn't going to really work for a phish. Now, for some of the more simpler pages, there's a lot of JavaScript and a lot of styles, a lot of inherited stuff going on in these domains. Say we want a simpler form. I like RootMe a lot. RootMe is a place. It's like Hack the Box, like try Hackney. You know, they got a lot of challenges on there. It's great for pen testers, great for responders as well. So they've got a login page here. Let's try to clone that. Yeah, thanks. I'm not going to mess with that. Somebody else gave a talk about all those Python dependencies and Python dependency hell. You guys heard about that with Nix? All right, anyway, let's continue on. So let's go to localhost, and what we'll see is the perfectly, right? So it can clone some things and it can't clone others. I'd highly recommend trying the easy stuff first as a pen tester. However, if you're trying not to be detected, the easy stuff, it will also get you caught. So that's why I opted for a manual technique. I got a story a bit later. Let's pull up the presentation and move on a bit into the actual phish. What are we looking at? So Social Engineer Toolkit isn't perfect. These other solutions that I had mentioned aren't perfect. The only way to actually get perfect and get a perfect phish is to do it manually, at least to get a start, grab the HTML, and cut things down yourself. And I'm going to show you it's not that hard. There are things we can do to make this more effective. CSP. Who's heard of CSP? What's CSP? Yeah, content security policy. Content security policy, for those of you that may or may not know, it's a server-side header that is sent back to the client, and it is enforced at the browser level. Content security policy it instructs the browser what it should do and what it shouldn't do, really what it can and can't do. I'll show you an example later on of content security policy in force. It's really hard to just completely bypass content security policy. And generally, instead of a complete CSP bypass, what you're going to find is you got to take a look at the CSP and you got to determine, okay, well, what in the CSP does this allow me to do, and what can I not do within it? There's a really cool tool called, I think it's CSPBypass.com. This was released a couple months ago, and it's super cool. You paste in the CSP, and then it tells you, okay, well, here are all the different bypasses that you can use for this. Many times you're going to have to work within the CSP that's issued, find a whitelisted domain, find a directive that isn't locked down, and then work your way around it. Breaking it is hard, but you can find things, other vulnerabilities like open redirect, unsafe file uploads, additional areas where input is reflected in response, maybe on a CDN server. In one pen test for a specific client, we were able to, we tried this attack, and the first time I cloned the page, put in the username and password, I hit send on the form field, nothing happened. Didn't get the username, didn't get the password, got nothing. And so looking into the browser developer tools, looked in the console, said, hey, CSP is enforced here. You can't send to that remote domain. I was like, oh, shoot. Like, this completely defanged my attack. I could inject arbitrary JavaScript. I could evaluate JavaScript on the page, but I couldn't steal the creds. I tried making a remote call with JavaScript, like you said, right? You click the form button, and instead of actually doing the form action, you send it out with JavaScript. Blocked. It was complete. We completely stopped our attack, but we were able to figure it out. We found that image sources were allowed, and I think it was star. We could pull any image. So what we did with the JavaScript was to dynamically, when they click that button, dynamically create an image tag within the HTML with the username and password in the URL. And then the browser sees, oh, there's a new image tag. What's the browser going to do? Yeah, it's going to go get that image. It went to our malicious server. We were able to exfil credentials that way. And that's my CSP bypass story. There's some other cool tricks I've got in here, like document.body.insert adjacent HTML. This is a JavaScript primitive. You can look it up. It's awesome because you can input an HTML string, and that makes these attacks a lot easier. And when at all possible, try to inject HTML instead of JavaScript. You're going to find HTML injection a lot more places. It's not going to be caught as often. And sometimes developers and risk managers, they just say, hey, we're going to accept that risk because HTML injection, they've been taught, is not that bad. XSS is the big scary monster in the room. I want to talk about the DOMContentLoaded event. That's a really cool one I learned about. If you run into a problem where you're injecting a payload and like things aren't rendering right, a lot of times the page renders top down. So if your injection is up high and the rest of the page hasn't loaded when your JavaScript is executing, you can actually hang and await that DOM content loaded event to wait until the page is loaded and then execute your JavaScript. That's just a little trick. So let's do the demo. Mind you, while we're developing this, again, look for detection methods. Look for ways that you could possibly detect this on the blue side, okay? So we're going to close out of that. Let's see what we got. We ran our demo server. So let's go ahead and open up my notes. We'll post a page that we're gonna clone. Okay, so this is the page. This is SSO login for a random company website. We got a user ID field and a password field. Let's open up my favorite tool. Nope, not that. Not Chrome, but Sublime Text. And we'll see what we can do with with just a word processor. All right, so the first thing we do when we get in here, we pop it open, Control-Shift-C, we open up those developer tools. We can take a right click here and edit as HTML. That'll automatically expand it. And we can just copy that on over and let's see what we're working with. There's a lot of stuff going on here. Some of you, this might look like gibberish. As you can see, this is broken up into some HTML at the top. We've got some scripts, a lot of JavaScript running on the page. You don't need to understand all these functions. Don't worry. We've also got like a body on load tag, which means, hey, we're going to wait until some things have happened, and then we're going to execute a JavaScript function. And then we got this form field, and that's the thing we're going to focus on here. We're going to steal these credentials. We're going to ask for these things via this form field, and that's what we're going to focus on. So to clean this up a bit, we're going to do a few things. I'm going to open up CyberChef. What I did manually is look through use some regular expression and Sublime Text. I'm not going to make you watch that, but I will explain all of the substitutions I do within CyberChef. I'm happy to publish these CyberChef recipes if y'all need. But let's copy this over. We'll go, I think I've got it open. There it is, and I've got them already. Let's take a look at them. So the first one removes HTML comments. Next one removes some white space. The next one removes all those on whatever events, on load, on DOM content loaded, on error, any kind of JavaScript. I want to strip that away because what I want to present to the user is a simple form. I want it to look exactly like the thing, but I don't want any active content that's really going to mess up my payload, that's going to allow for additional detection of my techniques. Next, we're going to remove the hidden input fields. We're going to remove the no script tags. We're going to remove the script tags. Any kind of tracking pixel images, y'all seen that? It's actually a great way to detect, by the way, who's on your site. You can detect a clone page. We'll get into that a little later for sure. And then we replace all the new lines. So let's see what this is. It'll be a little bit more manageable now. Let's save this as a different file. All right, so it's all left justified. It's a little tough to read, but we're getting there, right? So let's save this page and see what it looks like within our browser. Let's open. We're going to open the actual HTML file. This is all local. We're not sending any traffic external yet. But what's going on? It doesn't look like the page. Anybody know what's wrong? What do we do wrong? Not referencing the right CSS. Why is that? Yeah, we're referencing local. So this is looking for like files on the file system. I don't have those. I didn't bring those down. So what do? Well, one thing that we can do is go ahead and take this URL, take this remote URL. These files are already hosted on the on this external domain. So we can look at all these hrefs. We can use Sublime Text to try to make things a little bit easier. And copy that in. What else are we going to need? We did the style sheets. We need to find some maybe images. Image source. There's one. All right, let's see how that looks now. I saved it, and let's refresh. Look at that. Beautiful, right? All right, now let's continue to sharpen the axe. Let's make this a little bit worse. Let's do time check. We're at 11:30. We're doing great. All right, so let's take a look at this HTML payload first. I said we were going to mess with the form field. Let's make this a little bit more readable. I'm going to Control A and go Edit, Line, Reindent. That'll make things a little bit more readable. We're going to manipulate the form. So instead of actually, when we press sign in, we're not actually going to go to this remote site. We're going to go to our site. And we're going to go to the cred stealing PHP page. Method is post right here. As I said before, you can do it either in a get or a post request. For the purposes of this demo, we're going to do get just so you can see the things in the URL. If we inspect this form, we've got an image in here. We've got some label input divs, which look like, hey, this is for the location. We've got the user ID. We've got the password. But again, most companies require MFA or need additional things. You can just add things to this input form. For the purposes of this, we're just going to add another input for the MFA code. I'm just going to copy this div, paste it directly below. Anybody following along, by the way? Like on their computer? That's fine. We call it OTP code or whatever. It doesn't matter. We input the name. Name we'll call OTP. That'll be the name of the parameter that's sent to our server. For this, we'll just name it pass. And for this, we'll name it user. If it has hidden IDs or hidden things, if it sends additional things to our server, we don't really care. We're just trying to grab their creds, right? So let's save that, refresh, see what we got. Hey, we got another form field. And look, it's formatted exactly the same way because the CSS, the cascading style sheets, they continue to be applied. And so, yeah, let's demonstrate this is working. Location, I think 9100 was in there. User ID, Mr. Prez, there we go. And then OTP code. So when we send this, we're going to get redirected to our site. And as I said before, we'll input that log equals true parameter, and we'll be able to see what's going on. Cool. Anybody recognize that password? That password specifically? Anybody? That's right. Thanks, Corey. Yeah, it was the actual Twitter password. Some Dutch researchers a while ago, I think it was like 2016, they discovered this was a legitimate Twitter password. MFA wasn't enabled. They actually got access to a Twitter account. I won't say whose. All right. So we did that. We got a good form field. What's missing in this attack? We kind of covered step 2 and step 3, but what's missing? The weaponization. We actually have to inject this as an XSS payload, right? So how do we do that? I'm going to share a couple of tricks. Let's do. So the first part of this is we're going to take this HTML. I want to package it up. Before we get talked about encoding, I want to package it up as a string. I'm going to use the insert adjacent HTML JavaScript primitive to just insert that right next to the body. If we do that, we're going to see that this SSO form butted up against the original page. So we can just add a bunch of breaks, page breaks in there, some break tags. And that's going to push all that bad stuff to the bottom. We can manipulate that with JavaScript if we wanted. We could programmatically delete it. I'm just going to push it all to the bottom. Okay, so let's add that in. I think we're going to have to delete or remove new lines here. Let's see if I can do that on the fly. So, thank you, sir. All right, let's replace all new lines. Awesome. Now we're going to replace all spaces after the closing of a tag. Perfect. Okay, so now we got something that looks kind of like a string. Before you stringify it, we got to make sure there's no single quotes. This one happens not to have any single quotes, so we're good. But it will break your string, right? So we'll go var our HTML equals that string. We'll add a script tag here. And now we just stringified this whole thing. Let's terminate the string, terminate the script tag, and we're doing good for now. Okay, so we've defined the string. What we're going to do is utilize a JavaScript for loop. I'm just going to copy this over for the sake of demoing, and we'll see what we're pasting in here. All right, we got a JavaScript for loop. So this is for loop for 300 times. It's very simple. We're just taking our HTML. We're adding 300 line breaks, right? So if they really want to see what's on the page, they got to go all the way to the bottom. We also have this document.body.insert adjacent HTML. Again, you could view the MDN docs if you want to see how this works. There's other features of this, but we're going to do before begin and then insert our HTML. So it's looking good. We got a JavaScript payload. I'm going to remove these new lines just for posterity. If we try to send this in a URL, it's going to break. That's because the browser, when it processes this, one, it's short enough. One of the goals of this is shortening it, and that's why we removed all the other stuff. 4096 was the limit of the number of characters you could put in a GET request. I think that's broken now. I think Chrome and a lot of other browsers allow something way longer than that. So you don't really have to worry about length anymore. But we just want to keep it simple, especially if people are clicking a link in an email, right? So if we send this, though, it's going to break. It's not encoded in a way that the browser interprets URLs. It's going to interpret the plus signs as spaces. It's going to interpret the ampersands as separations between parameters. It's going to interpret the equal signs as, separation between the key value pairs in these get parameters. So what can we do? We just encode it, right? There's nothing special about encoding it. I've got a CyberChef recipe that can do that, and we're going to do that here. I'll walk you through, sure. We've got at the top, we replace all pluses first with %2bs. That's something I've seen burn people in CTF challenges before. We replace the ampersand with %encoded %26. We replace the question marks, the semicolons, the equal signs, and then finally the spaces. And we replace those with pluses, just because I like those better than the %20 encoding. So what do we get on the back end? We got our payload. Let's go and save this locally for posterity. This is our URL encoded payload. And let's go ahead and give it a spin. There shouldn't be any new lines in here. Good, we've got a script. Let's inject it. We were going to go to fishme.pypiper. There we go. We got the XSS. Remember this from the beginning demo? So let's go ahead and inject this into the URL. And we'll paste it in. And we failed. Wonderful. Let's see what's going on. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Let's try that again. Perfect. Thank you.
Someone was paying attention.
Okay. Oh yeah, that's it. That's perfect. You're a genius. Thank you. I made that mistake when I was practicing too once. So what we did before was we were deleting all the spaces. We also deleted the brackets here. So what I needed to do is replace it with just a single bracket. Thanks, appreciate it. All right, let's replace that. Let's restringify the payload. So we're a little behind time now, that's okay. We'll go to script tag, our HTML equals, I need the var in there and a quote. Nope. All right, let's go to the bottom. We'll do the same thing on the back end. And while we're here, I'll go ahead and paste in my JavaScript for loop. Perfect. And we'll close that out with the script tag. And then we'll paste that into CyberChef. CyberChef's thinking. Why isn't it working? Perfect. All right, let's go back here. Our vulnerable page. We'll replace it in. Cross my fingers here this time. Beautiful. Let's go user, password. Somebody said password we could use for the password. The OTP code, we'll just demo this out. And we click sign in, and it goes, we steal the creds, right? Now, there's one piece missing again that I cannot do on a live target, right? Because it's like actually logging into the remote system, an actual phish. I've done this before. It takes dev, right? You got to go through the login flow. You got to automate it with Python. You got to scrape it with beautiful soup. So I've, just for demo purposes, like this is what it did look like. This is what it would look like. And we go pwn equals true. Let's turn off caps lock. And that'll actually launch the Python script on the back end. It'll take a while, right? Because it's actually running Python in the back end. And then boom, we try to pwn with live again, this is no active traffic, but we get the credentials, we initiate like the request to single sign-on, we pass the MFA token, and then boom, we've got a token to like the remote services place. We have access to the network. This is the nail in the coffin, and this is what we're trying to get to. Let's talk about detections. Who was paying attention? So there's a lot that goes into these type of attacks, right? It took me 20 minutes on stage, but in reality, a payload like this would take, depending on the complexity, an hour to 4 hours to actually go through and make a phishing page that works, to encode it right. With my CyberChef recipes, it'd probably be a lot easier because that work's been done for you. But like I was caught. I was actually caught when developing this. The client's blue team came open and they said, hey, we had a JavaScript canary. on the target website, which was a tattletale. It told them, hey, someone's developing this on localhost, and they came from this IP. That's a bad thing, right? Like put canaries everywhere. I'm a big fan of those. There's also a lot of failed auth probably if you're developing this. When we're developing like an auto login script, there's going to be problems. No one's going to get it right on the first pass. There's going to be failed auth. There's going to be, hey, you didn't send this parameter, and there's going to be a lot of failed auth from an IP for a specific user ID that you're deving this for. In addition, there's like header analysis you can look at. Anybody else come up with any others like ways to detect this? Like, what are you thinking, Frank? Frank says actually checking the logs. Yeah, and like, are you collecting the right things to actually know what's going on here? That's a good point, because I was talking with a colleague, a friend earlier, and they say, hey, we're not even detecting some of these things that you're recommending. Like we are a service provider. What else? Anybody? He says, refer header of the JavaScript and the CSS we're stealing. That's right. We are hosting that. We're grabbing that JavaScript or these active files on the remote server. So we're actually making requests there, and those can be analyzed. If there's someone making requests to your cascading style sheets and it's not part of the normal login flow, yeah, you're going to want to look there, because like, what are they doing if they're not logging into your site? Another one I came up with is like header order. Like if you're using Python or Java or any programming language, it's going to send headers in a different order than, and sometimes like just not sending some headers at all. So you can do that analysis on the back end. There's a lot of bot detection, like the synchronicity of the login flow. Every time a browser goes to that login site, it's going to load it in the same way, in the same time. So the differences of, hey, I'm going to reach out to the image first, and then the CSS, and then the rest of the page, like that, it might not reach all of those endpoints during, like if you create a bot to do this. Also, unexpected URL encoding. URL encoding is hard to get right. And so like if there's something that's URL encoded that shouldn't be, that people's browsers just don't do, you're going to want to see that, right? Look at that long tail analysis and see. I also have on here like impossible travel. That's a good one. Like where are they logging in from? If this user logs in from Denver, Colorado every single day, but they're logging in from a cloud IP, or now they're logging in from like Jacksonville, Florida. Yeah, you're probably going to want to look into that. Also cloud IPs, but I'm sure y'all are already thinking about that. Anybody have anything else? What else did I miss? How else can we detect this kind of thing? Okay, maybe we got all red teamers in the audience. So in summary, I am a big fan of injecting cats into web pages. Cats are fun. Cats demonstrate impact, and I prefer HTML injections over XSS many times. Manual payloads, as I demonstrated, they don't really take that long. It'll get you more familiar with JavaScript. It'll get you more familiar with browser developer tools. If you haven't done it and you're a pen tester, go in and try it, right? Script and automate. These OTPs that we're collecting, these MFA codes, they expire. They have like, they're really short expiry. Sometimes 1 minute, sometimes 5, sometimes 10. This can be overcome with automation, right? And then finally, like creativity is key. Like look in the docs, see what you can do, try different things, and then bring it to the conference. Tell me about it on Twitter or whatever. Tell everyone else about it because we really need to work together as professionals. What we're doing matters. And you know, as a community, it's wonderful that we can come together, share ideas, and make the information landscape a safer place. And then finally, like maximize the impact of these bugs, but also have fun doing it. And if you're not having fun doing what you're doing as a pen tester, like what else are you doing, right? Like why are you doing it? So I really appreciate y'all coming to the talk. I appreciate your patience with me. I'll be available to answer questions, discuss topics, whatever. I love talking about hacking. Reach out to me if you enjoyed this presentation and you're virtual. I'd love to talk to you. Again, my employer, Bank of America, has jobs available. We're hiring pen testers. Thank you to the organizers, and thank you to all you. I really appreciate you. Thank you.
Thanks, Hoop. That was a great talk. Are there any questions in the audience?
The question was, are there any resources for beginners that are thinking about getting into web app hacking? One that I love is Portswigger's Web Security Academy. They made it free. It's wonderful, like cloud-based Docker containerized labs, and they're world-class, and it's free. There's Pentester Lab. I think they have a free tier, and the pro tier is like really relatively cheap, and they've got some excellent resources. The person that runs that platform and that blog is just world-class. Web App Hacker's Handbook is great, and I'm currently 3/4 of the way through the Tangled Web. Anybody heard of that? Outstanding book, man. It's like the answer book to web application pen testing, both of those. Web App Hacker's Handbook and the Tangled Web, worth their weight in gold. Thanks for the question.
So I
BB
noticed
King also
you-
has a great web app pen testing class. He's sitting right there, and you can talk to him after.
Oh yeah. BB King, everyone.
So I
Next
noticed you just kind of did some more manual stuff on the CyberChef URL encoding. They have a built-in URL encoder. Is there a reason why you don't use that?
Oh, probably because I didn't know about it until just now. Yeah, that may work. I don't know. It will probably work if it's built right. I just did it manually with Sublime Text, and I was looking to streamline it for this demo. But that sounds like a better way to do it. Thank you.
Hope, if anybody wanted to get the CyberChef recipes, what would be the easiest way to do that? Do you have a GitHub page, or just hit you up after the talk?
I will post these recipes and the slides to my GitHub.
Awesome.
It's Cary Hooper's my username. Yep. Cool. Thanks y'all for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Cary.